Hello, friends. How the heck are you? You have reached the Occasional Podcast Season 12. You made it. Here we are, together at last. A new season, and you know what that means. We got some new merch. The material for the Season 12 record weight is, drumroll, walnut. We've partnered with ZMF headphones for a brand new record weight. And I wanted to do two things this season for you guys. For those of you who have a bit of a lighter turntable, I wanted to make a lighter record weight. So we actually have two versions this time. We have a few at 300 grams. I even have a few at 230 gram weights. So those of you who have a lighter turntable, maybe a less expensive turntable than the big ones, obviously, that are out there. Now we have a new price point as well. A slightly less expensive option, but still with a really great partner, ZMF headphones, known for their really cool wood cupped headphones. This is a really cool wood record weight, walnut burl, cool swirls, great color. ZMF did a really great job with the bottom, including our PTA roundel, the PT audio roundel on the bottom, and some really cool inlay. So if you're interested in picking that up, just go to the website, go to About Us. The pull-down menu has a record weight designation, and there it will take you to our little storefront, and you can purchase that record weight. Please check it out. It's awesome. And also, we have some really great news. I just wanted to let you guys know that Expona is doing a giveaway in conjunction with us for Season 12 and the upcoming show that hits in mid-April, Golden Passes. If you can believe it, we're giving away 2 pairs to 2 people. So you have 2 chances to win. We're going to draw 2 names out of our list of emails to win 2 golden VIP tickets. And that gets you a couple of different things at the show, including the VIP treatment. But they also have a separate gold lounge, coat check, hospitality suite, Wi-Fi, wine and cheese reception, all this kind of fun stuff. So if you want to win free passes into Expona and get treated like a king or a golden god, all you need to do for that, go to pt.audio. And if you go to the little looking glass in the upper right corner, search for golden or Expona tickets, should you come up. But if you search for the word golden, it'll pull up the latest post, and that will be a place for you to click and enter your email address for a chance to win tickets. We're going to pull the winners on March 31st. So get your entries in before then. Get them in by the 30th. And hopefully we'll see you in Chicago. That would be great. I'll be there. Mark will be there. The whole team is going to come out in spades. So we're going to have a good time. The interview today is with David Chesky of Chesky Records. A very interesting fellow. A beautiful blend of both audiophile and production. So one of these great crossover interviews where we talk about a lot of things. We talk about what it's like to be creative. We talk about what it's like to be a jazz musician. He's a very interesting individual, and I see him at all the audio shows, and I'm so glad he's our season opener. I don't want to spoil the whole thing for you. Stay tuned. It's a really easy listening, really great guy, a little fun way to kick off the season. As we say, on with the show. Here we go. An interview with David Chesky. Today's episode is sponsored by Nordost. Ready to take your system to the next level? Transform the way you listen with Nordost's world-class hi-fi cables and audio enhancers. Nordost's superior design philosophy and exacting craftsmanship bring out every musical detail, connecting you with the tunes you love. Hear the difference as your equipment comes to life, turning every listening session into an unforgettable audio journey. Nordost, the clear choice for the best connection. That's www.nordost.com. Today's episode is brought to you by Focal Name America, a North American distributor. With the collaboration of 2 industry icons, Focal, the French brand known for high-end audio for home, car, professional, and marine, and Name Audio, the iconic British hi-fi brand. Other brands distributed include Musical Fidelity, Thorns, Avid Hi-Fi, Absolutement, BDI, and Vico Acoustic. Visit FocalNameAmerica.com for your home audio and custom installation needs. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have a gentleman I've wanted to have on for a long time. I actually was first introduced to him through a friend of ours, Steve Gutenberg. Has done or continues to do a lot of stuff with you. He kind of hangs out a little bit, but he also has made some albums that got to me that I thought were really interesting. David Chesky of a couple of different artists, Avenue Recordings, and he has some ongoing projects still that I wanted to kind of get him on the show for a long time, talk about what he's up to, about what he's been to. How are you doing today? We're outside at an audio show.
It's great. I'm in Florida, and New York was freezing, and I'm here in the sunshine with you. What could be better? Hanging out.
If I can get the resume just briefly, like what have you been up to? How did your musical journey begin? But ultimately, you ended up somewhere pretty quick early on in life, didn't you?
Well, look, my training is a pianist, an orchestrator, and conductor. So I grew up in Miami. I split when I was 18. I went to New York. I became an orchestrator for television and movies and conductor. And I would spend my whole day in a studio. I also had a jazz group. It was a big band. And I would play at night, jazz. But being in the studio all day, I really got interested in how all this works. We would do an orchestra, and there would be like 100 guys in the band, and there would be 100 microphones. And you go in and it would sound weird to me, and I said the best sound is where I stand on the stage, 2 ears. So I came up with this idea to do a label for jazz, pop, and, folk and all that. Chesky Records with 2 microphones or a stereo mic, because the whole point is it's conductor perspective. That's it. No fancy tricks. And this was like 30 years ago. And that was, our recipe. Like you have a French restaurant, and it's not to say one's better than the other. That's what we did. And then, then I started really getting into classical music, writing operas and concertos and all that stuff and doing the orchestra stuff. So I like to be on both sides of the fence. I like being in the studio, working in the studio, creating good sound, and then also playing, But I have a new company now. It's called the AudiophileSociety.com, and we're messing around with ribbons and tubes and trying to go for the most natural sound. And also we're expanding the stereo stage. So if you're sitting between 2 speakers that are 60 degrees, the sound, by the laws of physics, have to come between the 2 speakers, but we figured out ways to get it past. So when you listen to our recordings, it's this immersive sound stage you're just swallowed up in.
I think, and you could maybe correct me if I'm wrong, is the goal of everybody in the studio is to get the best sound. Where do you think that the objectives go awry when we have things that don't sound so good and things that do sound so much better?
That's a great question. What is the best sound? Now you're talking aesthetics, not science, okay? So we're art students, right? And we're in Dutch flower painters in the 1600s, and we're painting these flowers, and they're amazing flowers, and you see the bumblebees and all the detail, and you say, that's great painting. And this cat, Jackson Pollock, comes along and splatters paint all over the thing, and he says, no, this is the best painting. So that's the thing in audio. It's what you dig. I used to say it was my way, but it's not, because, I grew up with guys in metal bands. And they want this distortion. That's their sound. They want the compression. It's their sound, like Jackson Pollock. And my thing is more of a guy with a black and white camera taking a photo, no airbrushing. That's my sound, So it depends on, what your sound is. So there is no right or wrong. And you know what? Rappers with all the distortion, that's their thing, because if you didn't have all that, it wouldn't sound like rap. If you went into a church and recorded some guy rapping, you'd say, well, what is this about? So people use the sound in studio to create the art they want, and it's all valid and it's all good. And if you want to record on a cassette and you want to make it distorted because it's your sound, that's cool. Now, if you want to make something good and you mess it up, that's not cool. So it depends what the intent is.
And what would you say ultimately is your intent? There's a lot of talk about the perfect sound and this recreation of the original Are you down with any of that? Are you trying to do something else? Do you feel like part of my experience doing the show is that there's this idea that you can somehow recreate the exact same thing? How much do you buy into that from being in the room to being in the speaker room?
Okay, so here's two things. First of all, audio is a magic trick. There's 2 boxes in your room. You know there's no people in your room, but my thing is I want to transform your room into a club or a concert hall to make you believe if your eyes are closed that there are people there. That's what I want to do. I want to go for the most natural sound. Look, I'm talking to you right now. My voice doesn't have anywhere near the high frequency of a recording. And a recording would be, hey, it's very dark and natural. I think people don't dig that. They want hyper real. And it's okay. But my thing is reality. And what I want to do is make real musicians in a real space and put them in front of you like a magic trick. Now, it's harder because when you go to a concert, if the sound is bad or good, you image with your eyes. You watch a concert. You don't listen to concerts. You watch them. So when you watch a concert, it all makes sense. The brain filters it out. If you ever go, look at this thing called the McGurk effect, and it's going to show you how the brain trumps the eye trumps the ear. But our thing is to create this oral illusion, and it has to be aesthetic, and you have to be on my wavelength to enjoy what we're doing.
Some of the systems that I listen to that are for production, when I compare them to audiophile systems, they tend to be obviously used as like instruments more, right? A tool for you to create. How do you kind of explain the difference that I've heard, or maybe you have heard, in the difference between like a really nice high-end audiophile system and one that is used for music production?
You know what? The guy making music to production's flying an airplane. He picks the rig that he wants to work on. I have quad 57s. That's my thing. I can't work on anything else. In my studio, I have a lot of little speakers. I always check it on my quads because that's my windshield. You know, it's what I'm used to. I mean, if I got a new pair of speakers in 6 months, I can work on them. But you really need to be able to. It's like a pilot, man. If you're trained on a 747 and they put you on an Airbus, you got to go back to school 6 months. For me, my studio is a cockpit. And you know what? My system is not designed to sound lush and this. It's designed to... I listen for mistakes all day long. I listen, is the reverb tail too long? It's 2.7 seconds. Should I make it 2.3 seconds? That's what I listen to. I'm not there chilling out with a glass of wine listening. So, you know, people want to have beautiful tubes and beautiful sound. It's a different thing because they're coming in from a different angle. You know what I mean? So... it's sort of like the guy building the Ferrari. He's greasy under the car, and it's just putting it together saying, oh, man, I didn't put this bolt in right. And then the guy who buys the car couldn't care less. He's just saying, wow, I'm digging this ride. So I'm coming from a totally different place of only looking mostly for mistakes.
When you think about the beginning of your career to where you are now, and you're thinking about sound and how you produce it and how we listen to it, what do you think is like the biggest thing that you've learned over the past 20 years? And was that something different than the previous 20 years to it?
Well, you know what? It's like in art, I just want to keep going. Like, I don't do the same music I did 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I started out doing single point miking. Now my thing is ribbon mics with tube preamps. And with DSP, you know, when I did this 30, 40 years ago, there was no DSP. Now I use it as a tool. That's my paintbrush and my palette to create the spaces, and I want to create beautiful spaces. So it doesn't matter how you do it. It's what the final result you want, and you need the tools to do it. So my trip now is the purity. I'm trying to do super pure things, and I find ribbons are giving me that. And on my new series, the Ribbon Series, the Audiophile Society, that is the sound I'm going for. I want this beautiful. If you go up to my kid's room here, he's playing a lot of them. There's a naturalness to them, you know, a lot, and there's no compression, and there's just natural sound, and that is what I'm trying to do now.
When you mentioned compression, and there has been a lot of...
And that's not my trip, and it's okay. It's totally cool to compress whatever you want. But my personal restaurant, when you walk in and I'm in the kitchen, this is what I make. And listen, there's no reality. You walk into a restaurant, you say, I like a fish. The guy goes, here's a fish. It's raw. You would say, I don't want this. I want salt, pepper, cooked wine sauce. Same in audio. You make a recipe that's palatable to the ear. Music is designed for one thing, and audio, to please the ear. That's it. Nothing else.
Is there a specific reason why you're working with these ribbon microphones? Is it just the sound or something special about them?
I just like the naturalness of the mid-range. I find in audio, everything is hyper-real. It's sort of like we go to a TV and we turn up the contrast. Look, you're talking to me now, right? You're wearing a black shirt, okay? You're not hyped up, but I can see all the threads. I can see you have a thread hanging there and a thread there. I see all this detail without any contrast. In real nature, you can see every little, look, I'm wearing this black sweater, you see all the little wool things, super detailed, but it's not in your face. Audio, I call apparent resolution. It's not real. We just turn up that contrast, turn up the treble, upper mid-range, and we say, wow, it's resolved. But it's not. It's just all this noise added to make it real. If you have a great system and it's super transparent, that's what I'm going for.
Yeah.
And to throw in that thing, not to say the other's wrong, it's just not my thing.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to be like, hey, you're dictator, you're dictating to people, whatever you like. If you want to put mayonnaise on French fries, that's cool. If you want to put ketchup on French fries, that's cool. Who am I to tell you? And as a matter of fact, if you live in your house and you want to have a bass control and turn it up, that's your prerogative, man. You could say, that's my trip.
Today's episode is sponsored by Shit Audio. Shit Audio designs and builds audio components in Texas. Based in San Antonio and Corpus Christi, their wide line of amps, DACs, and audio accessories fit any budget, starting at $49. For a full rundown of all their products, visit shit.com. That's SCHIIT.com. Today's episode is brought to you by Expona 2025. America's largest high-fidelity audio show takes place April 11th, 12th, and 13th at the Schaumburg Convention Center near Chicago, Illinois. Plan a trip to the Windy City this spring and discover over 200 listening rooms of high-end audio equipment and explore the latest in headphone hi-fi and Expona's ear gear experience. New this year, get a look behind the show curtain on Expona's Audio Insider podcast. Get an exclusive sneak peek at Expona 2025, where leading manufacturers unveil their latest gear, share captivating stories, and give you a preview of what's in store. Don't miss out on the insider access to North America's biggest audio event of the year. Visit Expona.com for details on where to listen or watch. Tickets are available now at Expona.com. That's www.axpona.com. Well, you mentioned tubes, and then obviously solid state being the opposite of that. Is there something special that you feel about the added harmonics that tubes bring? Does it make it real, or is it just more distortion, and then it's almost the inverse of kind of what you were implying?
I use tubes in the preamp stage, and I use them because I think they're transparent. There's a transparency, this naturalness that's there. You know, you listen to records that were done in the 30s and 40s with ribbons and tubes, and they're mono. But man, there's something about it that's very natural. Then you listen to a pop record today, and it's this compressed upper mid-range glare, and it's the style, you know, and all that. Look, you know, my daughter is a singer. She's got some records out, and you know, she's 17, and a lot of the people that her age, they want auto-tune on these pop records. And I said, like, auto-tune, man, you're like a great singer. No, I want auto-tune. But she doesn't have it on the record she does with me because it's not my thing. But the young people say, hey, look, you're in a club in 1960. There's a guy up there playing electric guitar like Wes Montgomery. It's beautiful. And this guy, Jimi Hendrix, walks in with a fuzz box and a wah-wah pedal. And he says, and you say, we don't want this. This is not pure. This is not guitar, man. What are you doing? It's distorted. He says, that's my sound. And that's his prerogative. And if you had this archaic thinking, you wouldn't have Hendrix, you wouldn't have Led Zeppelin. all these people are creating this artificial sound. So that's why, even though rap is not my thing, I totally get it. It's their sound. Art has to reflect time and culture. So when you're a rap artist, you're reflecting the urban city life. It's grungy, it's distorted, and that's their throwing paint like Jackson Pollock. And I'm a Dutch flower painter. I want to make this as real as I can. Who's right? We're both right and wrong, and that's it.
When you think about someone who says, like, I'm not a creative, do you think that some people are just, like, born to be more artistic and dedicate their life to that, or is everyone kind of a little artistic and we all appreciate it for some reason?
This is a philosophical, scientific question, but I believe this. It's all in your DNA. I think we think we have free will. Look, if I wanted to be an NBA basketball player, and I practice every day, and I had the best coaches, and I had billions of dollars to teach me, it ain't happening. I'm not making the Lakers. It's just so not happening. I'm not going to be in the 100-yard dash in the Olympics. But playing the piano and writing orchestra stuff is the easiest thing in the world. I look at you and say, it's just put your hands on and play. I think we all have aptitudes to do things. I have friends who are professors in mathematics. I can't add 2 and 2 is 27. But it's easy for them. So I believe in nature, it's a totally different thing. I believe we're predisposed to the type of music we like and the sound we like as well.
Huh.
When I go to certain countries in the world, they like a rich, warm sound. Certain countries like a bright sound. I think it's in your, nervous system what you like. And you know what? Take classical music. This is what I do. Why do I love Prokofiev and why is Brahms okay, they're both great. Why is that? You're here. Why are you going to say I like this horn speaker and I don't like that? You're just drawn to it. I don't know why. I think it's in your DNA. I think it's like the car you drive. It's not, just saying, I dig this car. Or you walk into a bar and there's 20 great looking women at the bar, right? And this one is just, I dig her. There's no rational explanation for this. And the same with why do you like a certain sound? Why do you like the speaker? There's no rational. You just do, and that's it.
What do you think about, people who choose to do something off the beaten path, not an office job, people who are considering, looking back on your life, you've kind of found your own way through the world. What kind of advice would you give to people looking at doing something similar to you or working in music or...
You know what? You got to live your life. Look, the beaten path in my house is art. My wife is an actress, a dancer. I'm a musician. If my kids rebelled, they would say, Dad, we're getting off the beaten path. We're going to Wall Street. We're going to work for the Chase Bank. What? What is wrong with you? Can't you be normal and just, go broke and be a jazz musician like everybody else? So it's what your beaten path is. But you know what? Everybody has to live their own life, man. If my kid said, Dad, I want to go to Hawaii and rent windsurfers, fine, I got to tell you, art is not a great life to do it because, it's built into our ontology to be accepted. We never liberate ourselves from our mother's nipple. We always want to have affirmation. You know what? When you go into the show here, and you go into a room and you tell the guy, hey, you're the richest guy here, you sell the most speakers. Yeah. But if you say to the guy, that's the best sounding preamp I ever heard, best speakers, it makes their day. It's affirming in them. And when you go to a concert and you applaud the musicians, they do it. If you went to a concert and after they did it and you just sat there, they'd say, what's going on here? Am I bad? People need this affirmation, So that's a philosophical question, or anthropological. But that's the beauty about high-end audio, which I dig. It's you have a community of artisans. Instead of making things with a paintbrush, they make things with a soldering iron. It's art. It's audio art. Because people in there are not saying, I'm going to make this thing and I'm going to ship 100,000 units the first quarter, 200,000. They don't think like that. They just say, I'm going to make the best thing I know how. This is who I am. It's my personality, my sound, and I hope you dig it. Everybody in this room. Yeah. That's the way they think. Yeah. So it's like we were going to an art fair. Instead, you go and you see all the little jewelry and people making stuff. Same thing. I
always feel like art is somehow really the spice of life. It's the thing that everybody emotionally attached to. It's a thing that they maybe don't even know why they like it, but everybody just kind of likes it for a particular reason. Do you think that the life of the artist is, since it's not quite the area of mediocrity, there's not a whole lot of plain vanilla about it, do you think that it's a happier path?
No, art is, all you do is get rejected all day long. Man, true. I feel like I've made 3 steps in 50 years. Reject. For every concert I get, 10 people tell me to jump in the lake, and 100 people won't even write back to you. It's the worst business in the world. Make your money, live your life. But but people who do art do it because it's the same thing as becoming a priest. You're called to it. You're just saying, I'm doing it, I taught in a school once as a master class, and the head of the school says, I want you to discourage everybody from doing this. I said, like, why? Why'd you call me? I'm here to tell people, like, how great music is. He says, no. Because if you tell people how bad it is, all the people that weren't serious are going to drop out. But the people that are going to do it, they're going to do it no matter what you tell them. My daughter is a singer-pianist. No matter what I tell her, she's going to be a musician. That's it, done.
Because I think that when I used to write music, I felt like, and other people have voiced this too, when you're creating, sometimes it doesn't necessarily feel like you're the creator, but rather the conduit, that you're somehow pulling in this type of creative whatever energy and putting it out into the world. I've heard it mentioned multiple times. Do you feel like that's kind of the thing, that there is like maybe a more greater picture to it, or do you feel like, we're all just electrons buzzing in a brain?
I don't know. I get all my ideas. I don't know. I get the idea and then I work it. It's sort of like taffy. You get a piece of taffy, you pull it, you fill it, you stretch it until it comes into a piece of music. Same thing when I mix a record. The first time it's like, Second time then I listen to it and then I rest a day and why did I do that? That was stupid. And I also think it's a point of reference how you feel. I play piano in my trio. And when I have to fly 15 hours and get off the plane, your perspective about everything is weird. If you're not rested, you're like, what's going on here? And I think to receive art, you have to be in the rested stage. For me, better than concerts is high-end audio. You know why? Because if there's a concert Friday night, first of all, it's not going to be what I want to hear. But if there is, and I work all day and I'm tired, I'll go. Okay, but if I wake up 6 o'clock in the morning Sunday, I feel great. Wow, I'm in my pajamas and I'm in my T-shirt, and I just say, I love this record. I'm going to put it on. I'm in a good mood. The record player's in a good mood. We're both on the same path. We're both going to be there. But the orchestra could be tired. I'm tired, so it's a gamble.
I've not asked this question before, but I just came to it as you were talking. You said, being in the right mood. There was a documentary done about Stevie Ray Vaughan, and he was on, a lot of drugs when he first started, and then there was this big worry he wouldn't be able to play as good when he was sober. From your experience working with musicians in this, do you think that drugs are a conduit to greater creativity, or is it just about ego and something internal?
It's just nonsense. I know guys, but I don't do drugs. My friends don't do drugs. I know people who did drugs. It has nothing to do with it. At the end of the day, I think it's a waste of time because everybody I know that did drugs ended up losing everything, and some of them their lives. I grew up in the jazz world in the hard days, and it wasn't glamorous, And I say to myself, why would I want to ever do that and end up like this guy? So I was always straight. I was always into sports. And a lot of guys that are big musicians are like me. They're not, you think they're like that, but they're really conservative guys raising a family.
Do you think that a person who lives a pain-free life would make a good artist?
I don't know. That's a good question. Yes, I do, because I think art, it doesn't matter. If you're an artist, you're an artist. If people suffer and they're not good artists. There's a lot of people that are super rich and they're not good artists. It's genetics. Like I said, if I was rich or poor, I'm not making the Lakers. It ain't happening.
Yeah.
Maybe the Knicks, but not the Lakers.
Really great art can come out of pain, but that doesn't immediately mean that pain is necessary to make great art. It doesn't go back and forth the same way.
No, we romanticize it. It's just all romanticized. We want to think that Van Gogh suffered, he had to suffer for it. It's all nonsense. Any artist that's poor, if you said, hey, you want to live on the water in a beautiful house, they're going to say, sure. We romanticize this concept of suffering. It's nonsense. I don't know an artist. I know a lot of guys in jazz that have no money. I don't know anybody who says, I love suffering for my art. If I said, hey, you know what? I'm going to give you this beautiful apartment on the park. You want it? They're going to say, sure.
I kind of feel like what you're saying a lot is it's about the work, right? It's like about your approach, and if you want it, your drive and the time. What do you think about this 10,000 hours concept? So
yeah. If you, first of all, before you're an artist, you got to be a skilled craftsman. Now look, you have to say to yourself, is skill applicable in today's art? In the Renaissance world, the Dutch flower painters, you better have your skill together before you can be an artist.
Right.
Today, I don't know, with auto-tune and all this, I look at all these pop artists and it's just nonsense. But if you want to be a great concert violinist, you got to put in your 50,000 hours. You want to be a great jazz musician, you put in your 50,000 hours. You got to play your scales all day long. When I was young, 8 hours a day, it's a muscle memory. Yeah. There's no shortcuts. No magic fairy dust pills.
Have any comment on the Grammys this year? Do you follow the Grammys?
Look, I do. It's just, what am I going to comment? It's a reflection of our society.
How so?
You know what? Look, let's take jazz. Jazz is our indigenous art form. If you're a black guy in the 60s and you were an intellectual, you would play jazz. Great intellectual art form. Where is it in America today? We threw it out the window. Jazz guys, I have to go to Europe and Asia to make a living. In Asia, in Europe, you're treated like a great artist. Why did we just supplant it with rap and just throw it out the window? I mean, what's going on here? If you walk down the street in an urban city and say, who's Charlie Parker or Dizzy Gillespie, they're going to look at you like, what are you talking about? But if you walk down the street in Italy, whether you like it or not, you're going to know Verdi, you're going to know your operas, because it's their culture. Art is not a commodity. Culture is not a commodity. It's our culture, and we need to preserve it. I'm the opposite. I think we need these things today, and we need to educate kids. If a democracy is only as good as the educational system around it. It applies with art. If everybody becomes illiterate, you're going to listen to illiterate music. If we have an enlightened audience, it all goes.
I once saw an interview with the bassist from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Flea, and he was very adamant to let people know that he felt his purpose was to drive music education for children. He's a bass player in the band Chili Peppers, but his purpose is to educate children about music. What do you feel like we know what you do, but what do you think
I have
your
a series.
is?
It's called Classical Cats. It's online. It's to educate kids. I have a new ballet coming out, the Zeppelin. It's a children's ballet. I am so into that because if you don't pass it on, it's not going to do it. I'm worried about high-end audio. I'm walking around this show like, man, it should be, selling pharmaceuticals should sponsor this. Where is the next generation? Why is it that young kids today are not saying, wow? Why is it a young kid, 16, saying, man, I want a Ferrari, but not these speakers here? How do you get kids into this? What happened that all of a sudden throughout history it's sort of becoming like jazz? It's like people don't care. They're just like, who cares about the sound? We have our Alexas, we hear it in mono, we're cool.
Do you think that the headphone people are going to turn into 2-channel guys and save us all?
No idea. They have their own thing. It's like a close community there. No idea.
Because you've done some binaural recordings too.
I've done
right?
a ton of binaural recordings. I dig it. And we have this whole series now. We've been doing duplicate mixes. We can do binaural mixes and post of all these things. We put them out in dual formats, but that community never wrote about it once, so I just assume they're not interested. I think, the sad thing about headphones is this, the people that control that industry dictate what happens. The thing is this, when you listen to any single record made, it's mixed on speakers. So it's like your older brother goes to college and says, hey man, here's my jacket, fit into it. What we did was we mixed it, then we remixed it for headphones, and it was much better roller coaster ride because you didn't have a 60-degree triangle, you had 180 degrees. But people just, wanted their canned peas. We said we have fresh peas, but people said, no, we like canned peas better. So I don't understand why that never took off, but that's a closed world, a closed system, and the people in power just, I guess, didn't want it. And they want to keep people listening to canned peas.
There's a couple surprises that I always see, and one is a lot of the meets that I go to, soundtracks. Like, no words. Soundtracks being played. Soundtracks. They have their own, and I don't think it's necessarily bad, but you're right. They have their own music. They have their own genres that are separate from Two Channel. That's the point, really, is that they have their own tendencies that are completely separate, and this includes one of my biggest things I used to talk about all the time is they have a different set of words to describe sound, which I find very unhelpful.
Like what?
The term warm. They have a dictionary, and warm means something completely different from Two Channel to headphones. That seems like completely absurd because they're literally doing the same thing.
Well, warm, I guess, in audio means kind of rich, mid-range, not bright, warm. That's what we say.
In the clinical definition that they technically use is more bass. That's a big...
more bass to me would be just turn up the bass. But, everybody's got their, look, a jazz musician, you go up to him and you say, you play nice, thank you. But you say, you're a bad cat. Wow, thank you. Because in jazz, bad means great.
Yeah.
You're bad. Whoa. If you go to our website, www.theaudiophileSociety.com, we have a free sampler. Mm-hmm. You can download it, check it out, sign up, get our newsletters, and see if you dig it. And you may love it, or you may say, Dave is full of it, and that's not thing. But, try it. Yeah. Sort of like those cookies on the street. It costs you nothing to go up and grab a cookie. And we're doing something a little different. We're into this very immersive soundstage, rich, it's sort of like maybe Star Trek, the holodeck, Mm-hmm. We want to put you in a holograph, an oral holograph. So that's our thing. Like it or not, we that's our thing,
Yeah, it's great. David, thanks so much for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. The only person, 100 people came by and said, get out of here. No, it was a pleasure, and I liked your questions. It was a pretty smart cat.
The Occasional Podcast is a production of the Part-Time Audiophile Network, which includes parttimeaudiophile.com, The Occasional Magazine, the PTA newsletter, and audiohead.com. You can stay in touch with us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. The Occasional Podcast is produced and hosted by Brian Hunter, executive produced by Scott Hall at PTA Productions. The Occasional Podcast and its original associated music is monitored, mixed, and mastered on the Focal Trio 6 BE studio monitors. AI songs produced by Audio.com. If you haven't already, please subscribe to The Occasional Podcast on iTunes, Google, Spotify, or wherever your favorite podcasts are downloaded.